Life stories. Loyalty beyond disaster. The incredible true story of Mary, the hero dog. In a small rural village, there was a dog that struggled against the leash around its neck. It fought hard until finally the leash broke free and the dog dashed toward its owner. The ground beneath them was trembling violently and a massive earthquake had struck. The dog's owner was trapped under a pile of debris. Desperate, the dog tried to pull its owner free, but its strength was insufficient. Without hesitation, it ran off in search of help. Luckily, the dog found a rescue team. It barked excitedly to lead them back to where its owner lay buried. With the help of the rescue team, the owner was eventually pulled from the wreckage. Meanwhile, a helicopter hovered above, ready to lift the survivors to safety. But with the situation critical, only humans could be rescued at that moment. The girl, the dog's owner, pleaded with the team leader to take her dog along, but in times of emergency, saving lives had to come first. The helicopter team insisted on pulling the people up. The girl's cries echoed as she was hoisted into the air, and she helplessly called out for her dog, watching as it ran beneath them. The dog ran after the helicopter, desperate to stay close to its owner. The girl, looking out the helicopter's window, was overcome with emotion. She cried for her dog as it sprinted helplessly in the direction of the helicopter. Her heart broke as the helicopter ascended into the sky, and the dog's persistent run tugged at everyone's heartstrings. The team leader, deeply moved by the scene, silently promised that he would return to save the dog. This story is based on real events from the devastating earthquake in Japan in 2004. Two siblings, a young boy and his younger sister, were walking down the road when they encountered a small dog. The girl instantly fell in love with it and wanted to bring it home, but her older brother, Ryota, refused. Their father was terrified of dogs, and the children knew their father would never allow them to keep one. So they left the dog behind, but as they walked away, it followed them. Despite their efforts to shoo it away, the dog kept following them. In the end, the children relented and decided to take the dog home, secretly hoping their father would accept it as a birthday present for the girl. After much pleading, their grandfather reluctantly agreed to help them. He understood their father's fear, but couldn't resist the dog's cuteness, and finally, he caved. When their father saw his father sneaking into the house holding something, he was furious. Pulling away his father's coat, he discovered the dog and shouted in terror. The father was deeply afraid, but the grandfather gently tried to persuade him. Still, the father refused to accept the dog. The tension between them escalated and a heated argument ensued. The girl, disheartened, retreated to her room with the dog. But that night, neither the girl nor the dog could be found. The family panicked and searched desperately, eventually finding the girl fast asleep, holding the dog in the grass. Realizing how much her daughter loved the dog, her father's heart softened. He agreed to accept the dog, and from that moment on, the entire family, along with the dog, began living happily together. They named the dog Mary. The girl's favorite thing was playing with Mary, and over time, her father's fear of dogs disappeared. In fact, he grew very fond of Mary and would often let the dog sleep in his spot while he took the floor. The family grew closer as they spent many joyful days together. As time passed, Mary matured and even gave birth to 3 adorable puppies. The grandfather, due to his age, often suffered from leg pain and struggled to walk. Mary, ever the clever and caring dog, brought him a stick from a tree to help him walk. The entire family rejoiced when the grandfather could walk again, and their love for Mary grew even stronger.
However, one fateful day, unusual events started happening in their village. That night, Mary sensed something was wrong. She barked frantically to her puppies, urging them to go to their shelter, then turned her attention to the house, barking uneasily. Her instincts proved to be right, as the grandfather noticed a slight tremor in his water glass. But before he could react, disaster struck. The ground shook violently, and terrifying sounds echoed from the forest. The grandfather held his granddaughter protectively, but his age and the injuries to his legs left him powerless. The massive earthquake hit suddenly, and the family was caught off guard. Within minutes, countless homes collapsed, and many people were trapped or lost. The father and uncle, working in the city, rushed back to the village, but were almost caught in the disaster themselves. The road to their home was blocked, and they could only pray that their family remained safe. The grandfather tried to shield his granddaughter with his body, but his strength was fading fast, and he was badly injured. Just as the tremors continued, the boy, Ryota, and his classmates at school huddled together, afraid of the falling debris. Despite the dangers, the grandfather and granddaughter still worried about the father and brother. Meanwhile, Mary, tied up outside, was barking relentlessly, unable to understand the danger, but instinctively trying to reach her owners. With all her might, she fought against the leash, tearing at the rope, and though her paws were cut from stepping on broken glass, she refused to give up. After several painful attempts, Mary finally freed herself. She rushed inside, bleeding from her paws, but determined to find her owners. It was at that moment that the rescue team arrived, having been led by Mary. They saw her frantic behavior and followed her to the collapsed house, where they discovered the survivors. The rescue team immediately sprang into action, using all their strength and tools to lift the debris and free the trapped victims. Mary, despite her injuries, didn't stop moving, darting between the rescue workers, determined to lead them to her owners. As the workers managed to lift the rubble, the grandfather was the first to be pulled to safety. The team leader gave a signal to the helicopter above, which quickly began its descent, preparing to lift the survivors out of the devastated area. However, with the critical situation at hand, there was only time to evacuate the humans first. The helicopter crew insisted they needed to prioritize the people on board for immediate medical attention. The girl, still clutching her dog's collar, couldn't bear to leave Mary behind. She begged the team leader, pleading for them to take the dog along. But with seconds ticking away and the helicopter urging them to hurry, the team had to make the difficult decision to leave Mary behind. The moment the girl was hoisted into the air, her heart shattered. Through the small helicopter window, she could see Mary running beneath them, desperately chasing after them, trying to keep up. The dog's eyes were locked on her, but as the helicopter ascended, the distance between them grew. The girl's voice cracked with emotion as she called out for her dog, her heart aching with the painful realization that she might never see Mary again.
Mary continued running, her paws sore and bloody, but the dog's determination never wavered. She raced with all her strength, chasing the helicopter, but it was a losing battle. The rescue workers, watching from above, couldn't help but feel the emotional weight of the moment. Even the team leader, who had seen countless rescues, found himself moved by the sight of Mary's unwavering loyalty and determination. As the helicopter soared higher into the sky, leaving the devastated landscape behind, the girl sobbed uncontrollably, her heart breaking for her dog. In that moment, the girl's tears reflected the profound bond between humans and animals. But even though Mary was left behind, the girl's plea, her promise to come back for the dog, remained. This emotional scene marked the start of an incredible journey, not just for the girl and the dog, but for an entire community. After the earthquake, as the dust settled, the villagers came together, rallying around those who had survived the disaster. But in the midst of the grief and loss, there was a glimmer of hope, a symbol of resilience and courage. The story of Mary and the family didn't end with the helicopter's departure. In fact, it was just the beginning of the dog's heroic journey. After the earthquake, as the village began to recover, Mary's instincts kicked into overdrive. Despite being abandoned, Mary never gave up on her family. Alone and wounded, Mary became the guardian of the wreckage, tirelessly searching for any signs of her family's survival. She scavenged for food, finding scraps where she could, but always ensuring that her 3 puppies were well fed and safe. The world outside was changing rapidly, but Mary remained steadfast. She refused to leave the site of the wreckage, determined to reunite with her family. Her devotion to her owners, especially the girl, never wavered. Though the odds seemed insurmountable, Mary was driven by an unwavering hope that one day her family would return. In the meantime, the girl's family had been evacuated and taken to temporary shelters. Ryota, the older brother, who had been separated from his sister and grandfather, was devastated. He couldn't rest knowing his family was in danger and without Mary. After days of confusion and uncertainty, he was finally able to locate his sister, but the worry didn't ease. One night, the girl saw a picture of Mary in the news. The report mentioned that the village was slowly being submerged due to continued aftershocks and heavy rain. The girl's heart sank as she realized that if they didn't act soon, it might be too late to find Mary. Determined to keep her promise to the dog, the girl turned to Ryota. The siblings made the difficult decision to return to their village, knowing it would be dangerous. Despite the warnings from the rescue teams and the imminent threat of further aftershocks, they knew that Mary was still out there, waiting for them. They managed to escape the shelter and set out for the village, taking the only route left, a treacherous mountain path. The helicopter above hovered, scanning the landscape for any signs of survivors. The children didn't hesitate, their determination pushing them forward despite the daunting obstacles.
The rain was relentless, and the mountain path was slippery and dangerous, but the siblings kept going. Ryota carried his younger sister on his back, knowing the risks of continuing. They had to find Mary no matter what. Meanwhile, Mary was still clinging to the hope of reuniting with her family. She had suffered greatly, but remained resolute. The dog's loyalty was unwavering, and her strength to protect her puppies was unmatched. As the days passed, her condition grew weaker from the lack of food and harsh weather. But Mary kept moving forward, never abandoning the spot where her family had once been. On the fateful day when the siblings finally made their way back to the village, they were faced with more than just physical obstacles. They were fighting against time and the elements. As they trudged forward, the tremors continued, and the ground shifted beneath their feet. Ryota's sister had become feverish, her energy draining as they pressed on, but there was no turning back. And then, just when it seemed like all hope was lost, the siblings saw it, a faint silhouette in the distance, standing in the rubble of the wreckage. It was Mary. With renewed energy, the siblings rushed forward. Their hearts raced as they approached the dog, who was standing protectively in front of her puppies. Though her fur was matted and dirty, her eyes still gleamed with hope. The moment the girl called out Mary's name, the dog perked up, her tail wagging faintly. She slowly approached, but despite her exhaustion, she never stopped trying to protect her puppies. It was as if Mary understood that her family had finally returned for her. The siblings knelt down, overwhelmed with emotion, as they finally embraced their long-lost companion. Mary, weak and weary, licked their faces with all the love and loyalty she had held inside her since the disaster. But the reunion was bittersweet. Though the siblings had found Mary, they knew the journey was far from over. Together, they had survived the earthquake and the chaos that followed. Now they faced the challenge of rebuilding their lives, together with their loyal dog, Mary. The story of Mary, the dog who never gave up, serves as a powerful reminder of the strength of love, loyalty, and resilience. Despite the devastation of the earthquake, Mary's determination and bravery shone through, reminding everyone that no matter how dark the days may seem, hope can always prevail. The reunion between the siblings and Mary was a moment of profound relief, but there was still much to be done. The village had been devastated, and the recovery process was slow. People were scattered in shelters, and the aftershocks continued to threaten any hope of normalcy. Yet, for the siblings, finding Mary had reignited a flicker of hope. With Mary by their side, they found the strength to press on. Ryota, though still worried about his sister's condition, felt a surge of energy from the reunion. The siblings knew that together they could rebuild, no matter how long it would take. The first priority was to get Mary and the puppies to safety. They found a temporary shelter, a small house nearby that was still standing despite the destruction around it. It was a modest place, but it would be a sanctuary for Mary and her puppies.
The next few days were filled with struggle and adjustment. The children were exhausted from their journey, but they didn't rest. They worked hard to make sure that Mary, her puppies, and their grandfather were well cared for. The puppies' eyes had barely opened when the siblings realized they had a lot to teach them about survival in this new world they found themselves in. Together, they nurtured the puppies, and the bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. Meanwhile, news of Mary's remarkable journey spread through the village. The story of the dog who had never given up, who had braved danger and endured so much to save her family, became a symbol of resilience. As the days passed, the villagers began to unite. They organized rescue missions, helped each other rebuild their homes, and worked tirelessly to clear the debris. It was a community effort, and Mary's legacy of courage inspired them all to push forward. However, while the physical work of rebuilding was necessary, the emotional toll of the disaster was something the siblings and their families struggled with. Though they had survived, the trauma of losing everything was still fresh in their minds. The girl found comfort in Mary, who never left her side. The dog's loyalty was a constant reminder that no matter what they had lost, they still had each other. But even Mary wasn't immune to the pain of the aftermath. Her health had deteriorated after the ordeal, and despite her bravery, the toll on her body was apparent. The siblings knew they needed to act fast to help their beloved dog recover. They used all the resources they had, reaching out to the remaining villagers and offering their help in exchange for any medical supplies that could assist Mary's healing. Over time, as the recovery efforts continued, the community began to rebuild not only their homes, but their sense of hope. They learned to cherish the small victories, a wall being rebuilt, a roof restored, a meal shared among neighbors. Mary's spirit had sparked something in them, and they clung to that hope as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months. The months following the earthquake were challenging, but they were also transformative. As the seasons changed and the weather stabilized, the family and their community began to find their rhythm again. Though they were still mourning the losses and the destruction, the rebuilding process had a renewed sense of purpose. Mary's journey had brought them together, reminding them that in times of crisis, love and loyalty could overcome even the most insurmountable challenges. One day, after several months of working together, the villagers decided to gather for a ceremony of gratitude. They honored the lives lost during the earthquake and celebrated those who had survived. The ceremony wasn't just about remembering the past, but also about looking forward to the future. The community had survived, and now they were stronger than ever. During the ceremony, the girl stood up and shared her story of Mary. She spoke of the dog's incredible determination and how Mary had refused to leave her side no matter the dangers. Her words echoed through the crowd, and as she spoke, the villagers began to recognize that the earthquake, as devastating as it was, had revealed the true heart of their community. That night, the family sat together, their hearts filled with love and gratitude. They had lost so much, but they had also gained something invaluable: a stronger bond with one another, a renewed sense of purpose, and the unwavering loyalty of a dog that had saved their lives. Mary sat beside them, her head resting gently on the girl's lap, as if understanding the significance of the moment.
As the years passed, the village was rebuilt, but the lessons of the earthquake would never fade. The memory of Mary's bravery and devotion lived on, passed down from generation to generation as a reminder of the power of love, loyalty, and resilience. The family, now stronger and more united than ever, continued to honor the memory of the lost ones, including their beloved Mary. The puppies that Mary had once protected grew into strong, healthy dogs, and they too became symbols of the village's recovery. They reminded everyone of the journey they had been on and the strength they had discovered within themselves. The girl, now a young woman, continued to care for Mary's descendants, raising them with the same love and care she had given to the original Mary. Through all of it, the village remained united, bonded by the shared experience of tragedy, survival, and the unwavering love of their loyal animals. The earthquake may have taken their homes and belongings, but it could never take away the strength of the community or the love they had for each other and the animals that had stood by them through it all. As time went on, the village flourished again, with homes standing strong, schools reopened, and life returning to normal. But amidst the rebuilding, the memory of Mary, the brave dog who had never given up, remained forever etched in the hearts of the villagers. And so, the story of Mary, the dog who saved her family, continued to inspire not only the people who had witnessed her bravery, but also those who would hear her story for generations to come. It was a story of survival, of love that transcended hardship, and of the bond between a family and their faithful companion. A bond that would never be broken. In the end, Mary's legacy lived on, reminding us all that no matter the storm, love and loyalty will always lead the way. Years passed, and the village, once reduced to rubble, began to thrive again. What had once been a sea of devastation now stood as a testament to the strength of human perseverance and the unbreakable bond between people and their loyal animals. Life slowly returned to normal, but there was one story that everyone in the village still talked about: the incredible journey of Mary and her unwavering devotion to her family. The girl, now a young woman, often found herself sitting by the window of her home, looking over the peaceful landscape. The same landscape that had once been shattered by the earthquake, now bustling with life once more. She could still remember the feel of Mary's fur as she hugged her dog tightly, feeling the warmth and comfort she provided. Even as Mary grew older, she never lost that special bond with the girl. One evening, as the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the village, the girl's thoughts wandered back to the moment she first saw Mary. It felt like a lifetime ago when her world had been turned upside down, but the love and loyalty that Mary had shown her remained as strong as ever. Now, in the quiet peace of their rebuilt village, the young woman often found herself sharing the story of Mary with her children. She spoke of the courage, the selflessness, and the determination Mary displayed during that dark time, inspiring them to always be kind and never give up, no matter how tough life might get. Her children, growing up in a world of stability and peace, could hardly imagine the horror that their mother had once lived through. But through her words, they understood the power of love and loyalty.
The grandchildren, now old enough to understand the story, would often gather around the young woman, eagerly listening to her recount Mary's heroic acts. As she spoke, she'd watch their faces light up with admiration, just as she had when she was their age. Mary's legacy had transcended generations, and her name would forever be a symbol of hope and courage. One day, when the young woman's children were playing in the fields near their home, they found something curious. There, nestled among the tall grass, was a small patch of flowers, seemingly untouched by time. They looked familiar. They were the same flowers that Mary used to run through as a puppy, chasing after the children. The grandchildren bent down to admire the flowers, and, with a laugh, one of them whispered, "This must be Mary's garden." The young woman, overhearing the comment, felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She walked over to the flowers, kneeling down beside them, and touched them gently. It was as if Mary was still there, her spirit forever embedded in the village and in her heart. The young woman's eyes welled up with tears, but this time they were tears of gratitude. She had Mary's memory to carry with her, and that was all she needed. As the days turned into months and the years passed,
the young woman continued to honor Mary's memory. She made sure to visit the spot where Mary had once stood, guarding her family with unmatched determination. The village had rebuilt, but it was Mary's legacy that had rebuilt their hearts. The people in the village continued to share Mary's story, and it became a cherished tale passed down from one generation to the next. It was more than just the story of a dog. It was a story of love, loyalty, and the unyielding spirit of survival. It was a story that inspired everyone who heard it, reminding them that in the face of adversity, the most powerful force of all is the love we share with those we hold dear. In time, the village grew into a bustling community, full of life and hope. The children of the village learned to live with gratitude, appreciating the simple moments of joy in their lives. And, as they grew older, they too shared the story of Mary with their own children, passing down the lessons of courage, compassion, and loyalty. One year, as the anniversary of the earthquake approached, the village organized a memorial to honor those who had lost their lives in the disaster. The ceremony was a reminder of the devastation that had once struck their home, but it was also a celebration of their strength and resilience. Mary, the dog, who had refused to leave, was honored with a special tribute. The villagers placed flowers at a memorial in her name, and the children released balloons into the sky, each one carrying a message of gratitude for Mary's bravery. The village was now a thriving community, but the spirit of Mary continued to live on in every heart. Her legacy of love and loyalty became a beacon of light for future generations. The young woman, now a mother and grandmother, looked out over the village from the hill where she had once stood, just as a young girl watching Mary run toward her. She knew that the story of Mary would live on forever, etched in the hearts of those who understood the true meaning of family and devotion.
In the final years of her life, Mary had become a beloved figure in the village, not just as a pet, but as a symbol of what it meant to truly love and protect. Her descendants continued to carry on her legacy, embodying the qualities that had made her so special. The young woman, now in her later years, often sat by the fire, telling the story of her heroic dog to her great-grandchildren, who listened with wide eyes and open hearts. As the sun set one final time over the village, the young woman took a deep breath and smiled, knowing that the legacy of Mary, the brave dog who had never given up, would continue to inspire generations for years to come. The love that Mary had shown her family would never fade, and the story of her courage would remain a beacon of hope in a world that had known both tragedy and triumph. The village, once shattered by the earthquake, now stood strong, a reflection of the resilience and strength that Mary had embodied. The community had survived, and in the end, they had thrived. The lessons learned from the disaster and the unwavering devotion of a dog had shaped their lives, reminding them that no matter what challenges lay ahead, love and loyalty would always guide them home. And so, as the village continued to flourish, the memory of Mary, the loyal dog, remained at the heart of it all. A story of survival, love, and the unbreakable bond between humans and animals, forever etched in the fabric of the village and in the hearts of all who had witnessed her bravery. Years passed, and the village grew even stronger. The community flourished as new families moved in, drawn by the warmth of its people and the story that had made the village famous. People spoke of Mary, the dog who had led them through the darkest days, whose bravery and loyalty had not only saved her family, but had also inspired an entire village to rebuild, both physically and emotionally. In the heart of the village, a small memorial was built in Mary's honor. The monument was simple yet powerful. A bronze statue of a dog, head held high, ears alert, standing proud. Beside the statue was a plaque that read, "In honor of Mary, the dog who never gave up." The statue was placed in the village's central square, where everyone could gather to pay their respects. Children would often run up to it, touching the statue as if seeking comfort or inspiration. It had become a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the toughest times, love, loyalty, and perseverance could prevail. The memorial not only honored Mary, but also served as a tribute to all the animals who had been part of the village's journey. It symbolized the bond between humans and animals, a bond that had helped the villagers survive the most harrowing challenges. It was a reminder that animals, too, had a unique role in the fabric of life, often providing emotional support, love, and courage when it was needed the most. The young woman, now an older matriarch, continued to live in the village with her own family. She still remembered the days when she and her brother had searched desperately for Mary after the earthquake. The memories of the fear, the loss, and the hope were still vivid in her mind. But she had learned that no matter how much tragedy one endures, there is always the potential for healing, for new beginnings, and for the return of love and light. Every year, on the anniversary of the earthquake, the villagers gathered around the statue of Mary. They would hold a ceremony to honor the lives lost and celebrate the resilience that had helped them all rebuild. The young woman would speak at the ceremony, telling her children and grandchildren the story of how Mary had saved her family, recounting the moments of fear and loss and how the dog's unbreakable spirit had brought them through it all.
The children listened in awe, captivated by the tale of a dog whose loyalty was stronger than any disaster. As the years went by, the story of Mary became more than just a tale of survival. It became a symbol of what it meant to love fiercely, to stand by those who matter most, and to never give up, no matter the odds. The village itself had become a living testament to the lessons learned from that fateful day. It was not just the homes and buildings that had been rebuilt, but the hearts of the people. They had found new strength in their unity, in their ability to come together in the face of tragedy. The bonds between neighbors were stronger than ever, and the love they shared for one another and for their animals was unwavering. As the years rolled on, life in the village became peaceful again. The young woman grew older, but the fire in her heart remained just as strong. She had Mary's spirit within her, and she passed it on to her children and grandchildren who continued to live with the same values that had guided her through the darkest times. They knew that they too could overcome anything life threw at them, just as Mary had done. One day, as the woman sat on the porch of her home watching the sun set over the horizon, she thought about how far they had come. The village had healed, and Mary's legacy was alive in the hearts of every person, every family. She smiled to herself, knowing that the lessons of the past had shaped a bright future. And so, as time moved forward, Mary's story became more than just a local legend. It was a universal tale, one that echoed through the ages as a reminder of the extraordinary power of love and loyalty. The village, once shattered by an earthquake, had not only rebuilt, but had grown into a thriving community, bound together by the memory of a dog who had shown them the true meaning of courage. As the seasons changed and the village continued to prosper, the young woman, now an elderly matriarch, found peace in knowing that Mary's spirit would live on forever. The legacy of that brave dog who had never given up had touched the lives of so many, and her story would continue to inspire future generations, teaching them the values of loyalty, love, and the resilience of the human and animal spirit. In the end, the village and its people had learned the greatest lesson of all, that no matter how difficult life may seem, there is always hope, always the possibility for renewal, and always a love that can carry us through the storm. And as the sun set on another peaceful day in the village, the story of Mary lived on, her paws forever imprinted on the hearts of those who knew her, and her legacy a shining beacon of hope for all who would hear her tale. The world had been forever changed by a dog who never gave up, and that story would live on as a testament to the power of love, loyalty, and the strength to carry on no matter the odds.
If you found this video helpful or thought-provoking, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really helps more people discover our content. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest updates from our channel. Thanks for watching. We will see you in the next videos.